Welcome back to the Play-by-Play podcast. Today, as you can see in this video, I don't have my normal camera with me. I don't have my normal mic with me because I kind of just wanted to hop on here and talk from my heart on this topic of today, because it was a year ago where I made a very similar video about the Miami Dolphins. It was actually one of my more successful videos on my channel at the time. And it was around this same time where they were in a very similar position. They had just lost to the Buffalo Bills, I believe, and were 2-6. And I thought that would, at some point, kick things into a different gear for them. I thought that the players would perform better. And honestly, I thought that management would finally begin to see that enough was enough and that they had to move on from their current core and their current head coach. But they gave it another year, and, I can't blame them. I'm not, a professional owner. I'm not a professional general manager. But I think that it's cost them a lot, because we now sit here a year later and they are 2-7, and they just suffered a demoralizing and very uninspired loss to the Baltimore Ravens 28-6 on Thursday Night Football. It was very clear to me that not only did the team not perform well enough, not only did they take advantage of the numerous opportunities that they had, despite the Ravens' offense on paper looking unstoppable with 4 passing touchdowns, but the team just looked like they had given up. And seeing moments like Oligar in the second on the sideline feuding with his coach and throwing his helmet and yelling and whatnot, it's just become a circus show. Hearing comments from Jordan Brooks, starting linebacker for the Miami Dolphins, who was a solid talent coming over this year from the Seattle Seahawks. Hearing things from Jalen Phillips saying that, he wouldn't mind being traded. He doesn't really care what happens at this point. He just wants to be in a better situation. Those are all, massive, massive, massive red flags at this point. And I don't know at what point it's going to be enough for them to really do something, because we've seen head coaches be fired for a lot less. We've seen quarterbacks be traded for a lot less at this point. And heck, we saw Brian Callahan this year from the Tennessee Titans get fired midway through the season for only having 1 win. And so at this point, I really, really do believe that enough is really enough. You have to fire Mike McDaniel, and you need to trade Tua Tagovailoa. And until you do those two things, this team is not going to succeed. McDaniel, as creative as he can be as a play caller, as good as he has done at bringing out talent out of players who have specific skill sets, mostly within the speed department, with guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, who they had for a couple of years. They unfortunately don't have him anymore, and Devon Achane. I simply just don't think that this offense is moving far enough forward, and there's just not enough aggression on the defensive end and not enough development, realistically, from the Miami Dolphins at this point. If you really look at it, how many draft picks have really, truly worked out for them? Jalen Waddle, yes, he has worked out, but he was a bona fide first-round talent coming out of Alabama that was supposed to deliver right away in the NFL. Austin Jackson at tackle, has he completely worked out? I think he's been pretty up and down and inconsistent in his career, while he's had pretty bright moments. Chop Robinson, while I think he has improved and has brought on a lot bigger of a role, I think that drafting him in the first place was a little bit suspect with just how raw he was, just being really a raw, big-time athlete right there coming out of that draft. And, you come to this point, and their team really has not changed from a couple of years ago. It really has not improved big time. They had to go back and trade for one of the top safeties that they gave away a couple of years back in Minka Fitzpatrick from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as for Tua Tagovailoa's performances, I don't know what to say about it anymore. He now leads the league at this point in interceptions. He just overtook Geno Smith with the interception that he had tonight. He does lead. He is in the top half and the top 5, I believe, in completion percentage, but is 21st in QBR. And again, just doesn't seem like he has really a hold of any sort of leadership on this roster. A couple of weeks ago, he's blaming teammates for not showing up to team meetings and player-only meetings, when that's your responsibility as a quarterback to get those guys there, Today, he's blaming Miami Dolphins fans for not being loud enough and for the Ravens taking over the stadium. And the reason why Baltimore fans are taking over a Miami-built stadium is because the team is uninspiring and they don't believe in you enough. Not having good enough performances in non-ideal conditions, like in colder weather and whatnot. We're getting to the point now where Tua's play is going to start to fall off, getting into November, December, January, and even prior to that, for the beginning of the season, it wasn't good in the first place. And tonight, having a prime opportunity against a Baltimore team who is one of the worst defenses in the league, has one of the worst secondaries in the league, you have to wonder at what point is enough. So I think it's time. I think it really is time. And I think that there are a lot of solid head coaches on the market that you could possibly bring in. A lot of good coaches that you could bring in a possible coaching cycle next offseason. Rex Ryan is one that immediately comes to mind. I know that he's been in a lot of talk for head coaching jobs over the past couple of years. Could you bring back Brian Flores into the fray to bring a more defensive mind? Because it seems like, at least at this moment, that seems to be the stronger point of your team, because Tua, as great as he's been in the completion factor, they just have not taken advantage of it scoring-wise. Completions, they can only get you so far. And defense clearly is frustrated with them not taking care of business on the offensive end and putting up points. So Rex Ryan, Brian Flores, one of the top offensive coordinators, maybe like a Joe Brady from the Buffalo Bills. I don't know. But at some point, there has to be a change. Heck, maybe by the end of the year, John Harbaugh will be fired from the Baltimore Ravens, and you can go ahead and give him a try. Maybe you try out James Franklin from Penn State. I don't know, but you need to make a change. There has to be a scheme change. There has to be a player change. There has to be a cultural change. Because at this point, Miami is one of the top teams that I just don't take seriously anymore. I look at them as having the maturity of a little kid. I really do, because it honestly feels like jokes and the blame game, pointing fingers all around, blaming each other, blaming the fans, blaming the coach, and not really taking any real accountability, which has put them in the position that they have been at this midway point, being 4-13 over the last 2 years at this midway point. Not really showing any real sign of life from a player perspective and from an attitude perspective. It needs to stop. And I'm not coming on here and speaking from the heart and being really passionate because, I love Miami and I'm a big fan of Miami. I'm not. I'm a Denver fan. I'm nowhere near close to Miami. And being an AFC guy, I should want them to be bad. But as a sports analyst, I want to see the NFL be more competitive. I want to see better games than the one that I saw tonight. I want to see a team that is in a huge market that has so many capabilities, with not having a state tax, with having amazing weather and whatnot out there, having solid food out there, an attraction that athletes should truly want to come with. I want there to be a desirable team there. And the truth is, there's 3 teams in Florida right now, and only one of them are realistically very desirable right now, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Jags are getting to a point where they could be, because I think that Liam Cohen has done the basic job as a head coach. I think that Trevor Lawrence has made more strides to be better and to be more consistent. I don't think that he has completely gotten there. I think that you have solid offensive standouts like Brian Thomas Jr. At wide receiver, so I think that they're getting close, but they're still not there. And Miami, like we mentioned throughout this video, is just not. So are they going to be active at the trade deadline to improve their team? Are they going to be active at the trade deadline to give away assets, to get draft assets, trading Tua for draft assets, trading Jalen Waddle for draft assets, trading Tyreek Hill for draft assets? Historically, that has not been the case, unfortunately, because they just have not been active in that domain. But they need to at this point. It should happen. If you want to be successful, you have to be okay with tearing stuff down. And I think that we're at a point where we're at a point of no return. And there's only really one option in all of this because the team at this point is not going to get any better. And with teams like division rivals like the Patriots and the Bills just seeing so much farther ahead right now than the Dolphins, it's time to make a big-time change. And just one more thing to leave you guys off with tonight. I saw this statistic on Twitter saying that on pass attempts with 2.5 seconds of snapping the ball, Tua Tagovailoa completed 18 of 25 of his passes for 209 yards. However, on attempts that took longer than 2.5 seconds, he completed 7 of 14, passed for 52 yards, and an interception with a negative 16.8% completion percentage over expectation. It's really weird to me that a quarterback at this point, especially this deep into your career, 5 to 6 years into your career, is struggling with having more time in the pocket. That's a really interesting statistic. And that to me just showcases that Tua at this point is at his lowest point in his career when it comes to confidence. And he doesn't have a lot of confidence in himself. He doesn't have a lot of confidence in his team. And he doesn't have a lot of confidence to really complete the play. So what will Miami do? Leave that all down below in the comments section. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like. Share with your friends. Follow us on social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All those ads are going to be down below, as they are as always. On all those social medias, you will get to see my coverage of breaking news in the NFL, the NBA, and combat sports. And, of course, you will never get to miss for whenever the podcast decides to upload an episode. There needs to be a change in Miami. I'm hoping that it comes soon. Make sure to follow me on Twitter because I've been a little bit more active on there especially. But with all that, that's all that I have for you guys tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great rest of your weekend. Be safe on Halloween. Happy Halloween. And peace.